Porn use. What you can't tell is happening to you until it's late. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. Let me tell you what I mean by that. In this video, we are going to break down three primary concepts, three ways that porn tricks you and uses you without you even knowing it. And then lastly, the fourth thing, I'm going to give you a really powerful brain tip for today so that you can leave porn behind forever and ride off into the sunset. So I just want to remind you before we get going that I said that this is how porn tricks you until it's late. I want you to know it's never too late. I did not say too late. It's late because it gets late in the game for some people, but it's never too late. You can always commit and move into this journey and you'll be glad you did. Okay, number one. First of all, what porn does is it literally grabs you by the brain without you knowing it. And it does it in the first view or two. So what we know from science is that the first time you saw pornography, likely when you were young, what happened was you got this rush of dopamine into your brain and it felt great. It felt better than anything had felt before, and it felt better than anything natural could. That's because porn is a supernormal stimulus. It produces more dopamine in the system that links you to the screen and to the easy button so that you keep wanting to go back for more. On the second view, what happens is your brain tries to recalibrate itself and inadvertently or in a course correction type of way dumps even more dopamine into your system and you are hooked. And that's why when you were a young person, when you first saw it, you might not even liked what you saw. A lot of people report to me that I didn't even like it, but man, my brain lit up like a firework and I wanted to go back for more. And that is how your brain gets hooked. Initially, I like to call it the hijacker. So what happens then is you may have had a casual habit where you would consume every once in a while. You'd go into the screen so that you could feel good. We know from the science that it's used to de-stress, and many times your family life is chaotic or it's not a place for happy campers and you're looking for an out from that scenario and you find, solace in the screen because it produces all this dopamine that makes you feel good. Now, what you don't know when you're casually going back here and there is that you actually are building a pornography addiction. There is an addictive cycle to porn use. And the way that it works is it's here and there first, but then you'll notice that you're going into the screen more frequently, you're going in more consistently, you're going in for longer sessions. You'll notice that it actually has a pattern to it. If you look, it has a cycle to it. And yes, many people are able to abstain from that cycle and not be completely sucked into it for a long time, but it is building the cycle. It escalates, and that's number two. Number two is that a porn habit escalates while you're not watching. And what happens is it becomes more frequent, consistent, and more intense. So intensity is a really sharp sign of escalation in hitting the easy button. What that means is you find yourself watching acts or scenes or genres that have even more dopamine producing qualities to it because it has something that is lighting up your brain with that dopamine. And that's different for all people. But typically what happens is you'll be pulled into something that produces even more anxiety. So anxiety and excitement and arousal really can create this friction point of producing more dopamine because that anxiousness and excitability, it can feel the same and be perceived very similarly in the nervous system. And so what happens is if you're watching something that's morally incongruent, that might make it so that you want to go back for even more because of what it's doing to your brain and how it's making you feel. And basically, it's building and traversing, going over and over these neural pathways that bring you back for more. But what escalation necessitates is that there is more, because you need more dopamine, like that recalibration, than you did before to feel the same. And so over time, what you used to be consuming isn't enough to make you feel as good as you used to. So you have to escalate it into frequency, consistency, and intensity just to feel the same. Ultimately, what happens is you're just going back into the screen so that you can feel okay. For many people, it doesn't even make them feel good anymore. They're just offsetting how bad they're starting to feel on the other end, which is number 3. Porn consumption will literally suck the joy out of your life when you are not looking. No, I'm not being dramatic. I know what you're thinking. Dr. Trish, isn't that dramatic? No, it's not dramatic, because this is what happens when you hit the easy button for a dopamine rush. Going into a screen where you are consuming a fake performance with people who don't even want to be there, and you're a fourth wall consumer, this super normal stimulus, you are just juicing up your brain with dopamine. That's the A effect. Then when you go back into your world, back into real life, not only is there less dopamine, because there just inherently is, ultimately, that dopamine becomes even lower because of the B effect. Because you are in the screen and you've trained your brain not to work at all to get a reward, all you have to do is this, easy button. Then your brain gets this flood of a neurochemical reward. You've trained it like a puppy. Now you go to work. There's no easy button for work. You actually have to do that project. There's multiple steps to get this project done over the course of a month. No easy button. So where there used to be dopamine, because if you like your work, it does produce dopamine, much lower levels than the screen, but dopamine, good healthy dopamine with serotonin and oxytocin and a beautiful neurochemical cocktail that makes your brain healthy and strong. But it's not doing that for you anymore, because you've trained your brain to go easy button equals reward. Now going to work, that doesn't equal reward. That equals stress and cortisol. So the B effect is much more cortisol in your system. And guess what it does? It makes you angry, and it makes you irritable, and it makes you swing your moods back and forth. It destroys your relationships because your partner, your children, your friends, your employer doesn't know which version they're going to get of you. Are they going to get the happy version that just got a dopamine hit? Or are they going to get the angry version that needs a dopamine hit? So what it does is it makes you more anxious. It makes you feel depressed. It sucks the joy out of your life. It gives you lack of motivation. It creates feelings of general malaise, like you can't put your thumb on it, but you just don't feel good. So what happens is then you can have physical effects, erectile dysfunction. We know that what happens in the reward center is the reward center becomes completely fried, that you can only get aroused when you're consuming the intensity that you've trained your brain that it needs for arousal. So now you're trying to be with your honey in the real world, and your honey doesn't have any of the stuff the screen has, so your brain can't get aroused. And then what happens is, not only are you not having fun, engaging sex with your partner, and you're not, having the back and forth and the connection and the love and the excitement there because you've trained your brain, it's only in the screen. Also, you're angry and you yell at your partner. So we know from the science that porn consumption doubles 2 times as likely of breakups and divorce. And I know you might be thinking it's because you get found out that this is your habit. It's not because you got found out. It's because of all the ways that you behaved while you were being found out that you probably don't even see. When you're in the box, you can't even see that there is a box. You know the old adage about the fish who's in a fishbowl. And another fish is about to jump in and he says, "Hey, how's the water?" And the first fish says, "What's water?" Think about it. In the box. So you've trained your brain not to want to go to work because there's no dopamine there, not to want to go to your relationships because what it seems like is that your partner is the crazy one who's always attacking you and all over you. But unfortunately, that's just the cortisol talking, and your partner might be feeling that way because of all the ways that you've acted towards them. Then when it comes to your hobbies, you barely want to do them anymore. Why would you go play basketball when there's this much dopamine when you can just hit that easy button and there's this much dopamine and you don't even have to do anything? Basketball, you have to move your body. So what happens is you stop doing your hobbies and you start consuming more and more. Escalation. It's all wrapped up into one. And this is what I want you to know. You might not even see this happening to you. I work with people who are young, and I work with people who are middle-aged, and I work with people who are older. And the people who are middle-aged and older, what they say is, "I wish I would have known that this was happening to me and I was allowing this to happen to me a long time ago," because it develops in just this way. And people are confused when I talk to them. If I talk to a man who's 55, he'll go, "You know what? It used to be casual and I could stay away from it for 2 years at a time, but then I'd go back and then I'd binge. And, now I find myself watching every day. And sometimes I watch for 3 hours because at a certain point, you now need it just to get through your days. And that's when it's late. But I want you to know it's never too late. If you're there, and this can happen to young people. I talk to young people all the time where they can't leave their rooms. They're just gaming and watching porn, and that's it. They don't want to work. They don't want to participate in family life. They don't have any hobbies. They just need the screen. If that's you, I want you to know you can break this habit. Yes, it might be difficult, but I'm here for you. And you can do it. You're stronger than you know. You just have to figure out the first step to help you to commit. When you commit, you're like, "Man, I'm doing this. I'm getting my life back. I'm getting back on purpose. I'm going to go get that job that I want. I'm going to go back to my job and rock it out at high levels. I'm going to find the relationship that I deserve." If you don't have a relationship and you're kidding yourself into thinking the screen is a replacement and it's good enough for you, I'm here to tell you it's not good enough for you. You can find the perfect partner for you. There is a partner out there who is literally waiting to have an amazing life, an amazing sex life with you. There's no excuses about it. You can create that and get back on purpose in your hobbies. A, they're fun. 2, they produce dopamine in the real world. Why wouldn't we? Leave the habit behind. Okay, so now number 4. Here's your brain tip for the day. Your brain tip is, if you can't remember what the joy was in your life, I want you to write down things that you would love to do for work. Write down 3 of them. If you have a job, pick the 3 favorite aspects of your job to reinvigorate your brain towards getting on purpose and going back there so you can get the dopamine out of your work. I want you to think about your relationship or the relationship that you would like to attract to you. When you leave the screen behind, your brain heals. When your brain heals, it uses a new frequency of electromagnetic energy. You literally become more attractive, and you can attract that perfect person to you when you set the intention. You got to be pragmatic about it. Then you set the intention, you go out. You go to places where that perfect partner might be. And I know it's difficult in COVID times, but not impossible. So when you put yourself in a position that you are in a place where you might find someone who's like-minded, you can attract that person to you because you're becoming a new version of yourself. Lastly, which is related, I want you to make a list of your hobbies. What do you love to do? Think about it. Think about it hard if you don't remember. What did you like to do when you were a kid? What did you stop doing because you got consumed into the easy button? Because if you want to get bowling again, or if you played soccer, you can get back to it where you go out and you start playing soccer and you work at it a little and you start getting dopamine in the real world so that you can feel great and you get back on purpose in your life. So it's never too late to get started on this journey. And if you're looking for help, I would absolutely love to help you. Go to drtrishleigh.com. Check out the programs of different shapes and sizes. I'm here for you and I'd love to help. And until then, control your brain or it'll control you.